The viewing screen showed a structure so massive it defied comprehension. Captain Doyon Kim stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the Unity, and watched as the Nexus station grew larger with each passing moment. It looked like a metal flower floating in space, with dozens of petals extending outward, each one larger than Earth's moon. Lights sparkled across its surface like stars, and ships from 100 different worlds moved around it like insects around a lamp. Doyon felt his heart beat faster. This was it. Humanity's first real chance to join the galactic community. After 2 years of preparation, after building their first faster-than-light ships, after making contact with the alien species that ruled the stars, they were finally here. "It's beautiful," Dr. Hannah Lee said beside him. She was younger than Doyon, only 32, but Earth's best expert on alien cultures. Her eyes were wide with wonder. "I still can't believe we're really here." "Believe it, Ambassador," Jinwoo Park said from behind them. The old man walked forward slowly, leaning on his cane. At 78, he was the oldest member of their delegation, but also the wisest. "And remember why we're here. We must show them that humanity deserves a place among the stars." The Unity docked at one of the smaller petals. When Doyon and the others stepped through the airlock, they entered a world unlike anything on Earth. The corridor stretched ahead of them, its walls made of some material that shifted colors as they walked. Aliens of every shape and size moved past them. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated in the air. One creature looked like it was made entirely of blue light. A tall, thin alien approached them. It had gray skin, 4 arms, and eyes that blinked sideways. "I am Facilitator Rix," it said in perfect English, though its mouth didn't move in sync with the words. A translation device, Doyon realized. "I will guide you to the council chamber. Please follow." They walked for what felt like hours through the station. Everywhere Doyon looked, he saw wonders. Gardens that grew in zero gravity. Markets where aliens traded goods he couldn't begin to understand. Windows that showed views of distant nebulas and spinning galaxies. This was the heart of galactic civilization, and humanity wanted desperately to be part of it. The council chamber was a vast circular room. 47 seats rose in tiers around a central platform, each one occupied by a representative of a different species. The human delegation was led to the platform, where they stood alone under the gaze of hundreds of alien eyes. Ambassador Jinwoo stepped forward. Despite his age, his voice was strong and clear. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, we come before you representing the people of Earth. Humanity has reached for the stars and found you waiting. We seek to join your great confederation, to learn from you, to trade with you, and to contribute what we can to the peace and prosperity of the galaxy." For 3 days, the humans presented their case. Hannah showed images of Earth's diverse cultures and explained humanity's history. Doyon demonstrated recordings of human technology and industry. They talked about art, music, science, and philosophy. They showed the council everything that made humanity special, but the aliens were not impressed. On the second day, a creature that looked like a giant insect stood up. Its voice buzzed and clicked. "The humans are primitives," it said through its translator. "They have barely left their own star system. They fight wars among themselves. Their technology is crude and inefficient. They have nothing to offer us." This was Counselor Vex of the Valkyr, Hannah had explained earlier. The Valkyr controlled most of the major trade routes in the galaxy. They were rich and powerful, and they saw humans as competition. An energy being that glowed with soft purple light spoke next. "We have studied the human mind," it said, its voice like wind chimes. "They are unstable, emotional, violent. They would disrupt the harmony of our council." The Orvathi Doyon thought bitterly. Psychic beings who thought themselves superior to everyone else. A reptilian creature with scales like red armor laughed. A harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. "Look at them," it said. "So small, so weak. Their lives are over in less than a century. What can such short-lived creatures accomplish?" The Thrain, warriors who respected only strength and longevity. Jinwoo tried to respond to each criticism. He explained that humanity's conflicts were in the past, that they had united under one government to reach the stars. He argued that youth and emotion could also mean adaptability and passion. He pointed out that many human achievements had been made by people working together across generations. But the council had already made up their minds. On the third day, the vote was called. One by one, the 47 members of the council voted. One by one, they rejected humanity's application. The final count was unanimous. Not a single voice spoke in favor of letting humanity join. The chief counselor, a being that looked vaguely like a crystal tree, delivered the verdict. The Galactic Council has determined that humanity is a Category 3 developing species. You are permitted to exist within your home system of Sol. However, you are forbidden from colonizing any worlds beyond your system. You are forbidden from establishing trade agreements with Council species. You are forbidden from accessing Council technology or using Council hyperspace routes. Jinwoo's face went pale. You're confining us to one star system? That's a prison sentence for our entire species. It is the law, the chief counselor said without emotion. When you have matured as a species, you may apply again. In perhaps 5,000 years? 5,000 years? Hannah whispered. Tears ran down her face. The chief counselor continued. If you attempt to violate these restrictions, economic sanctions will be imposed. If you persist, military action will be authorized. This council has existed for 50,000 years. We have brought peace and order to this galaxy. We will not allow a primitive species to disrupt that order. We understand, Jinwoo said quietly. His shoulders sagged. He suddenly looked much older than his 78 years. As they walked back to the Unity, nobody spoke. Doyeon felt a burning anger in his chest. They had come here with hope, with dreams of joining something greater than themselves. Instead, they had been humiliated and dismissed like children. Alien passers-by stared at them. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked indifferent. A few seemed amused by humanity's failure. Back on the ship, Hannah broke down crying. Jinwoo sat in his quarters, staring at the wall. The other members of the delegation were equally devastated. Doyeon stood alone on the bridge, watching as the Unity pulled away from the Nexus station. That massive structure, that symbol of galactic civilization, grew smaller in the view screen. He clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. They think we're nothing, he said to himself. They think we'll just go home and accept their judgment. They think we'll wait 5,000 years like obedient children. His reflection stared back at him from the dark view screen. Behind it, the stars stretched out in every direction, infinite and full of possibility. They're wrong, Doyeon said. His voice was cold and hard. They're going to regret this. All of them. Humanity doesn't need their permission to reach for the stars. We'll build our own future. And when we're done, they'll wish they had said yes when they had the chance. The Unity turned toward home, toward Earth, toward a humanity that would soon learn of their rejection. But Doyeon was already thinking ahead, already making plans, already imagining a future where humanity didn't ask for permission from anyone. The Galactic Council had made their decision. Now humanity would make theirs. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Within hours of the Unity's return, every human on the planet knew about the rejection. The Galactic Council had said no. Humanity was forbidden from expanding beyond their own solar system. They were prisoners in their own home. Riots broke out in major cities. In Seoul, angry crowds burned effigies of alien counselors. In New York, protesters demanded that Earth build weapons and fight back. In Mumbai, people gathered in temples and mosques and churches, praying for guidance. The rejection wasn't just political. It felt personal. It felt like the universe itself had judged humanity and found them wanting. The United Earth government called an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered in the assembly hall in Geneva. The debate was fierce and emotional. Some demanded they comply with the council's orders. Others wanted to defy them immediately. Still others suggested finding loopholes in the restrictions. Ambassador Jinwoo stood before the assembly. He looked tired, like he had aged 10 years in the past week. I have spent my entire life working toward this moment, he said. I believed that joining the Galactic Council was humanity's destiny. I was wrong. He paused, his voice heavy with regret. But I still believe we must be cautious. The Council has weapons we cannot match, technology we cannot understand. If we defy them openly, they will crush us. Captain Doyon Kim stood up from his seat. He had been promoted to fleet commander after their return, and now wore the uniform proudly. With respect, Ambassador, I disagree. Yes, the Council is powerful, but they are also complacent. They have ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years without challenge. They think we will simply obey because everyone else has obeyed. And you think we should challenge them? Asked a representative from the African Union. I think we should ignore them, Doyon said. They forbid us from using their hyperspace routes? Fine, we build our own. They forbid us from colonizing beyond Sol. Fine, we colonize in regions they've never explored. They forbid us from trading with Council species. Fine, we find species outside the Council and trade with them. A murmur ran through the assembly. Some looked shocked. Others looked intrigued. Director Mina Choi stepped forward. She was the head of Earth's Advanced Research Division, a brilliant engineer who had helped design the Unity's faster-than-light drive. Commander Kim is right, she said. We've been thinking about this all wrong. We don't need to join the Council. We don't even need to fight them. We just need to go where they're not looking. She activated a holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared, rotating slowly in the air. Most of it was marked in blue, representing Council space. But there were vast regions marked in gray, unexplored and unclaimed. The Council controls about 60% of the galaxy, Mina explained. The rest is too far away, too dangerous, or simply not interesting to them. But those regions contain thousands of star systems, hundreds of habitable planets, resources beyond measure, and nobody owns them. General Heian Kung, the Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, studied the map carefully. You're suggesting we leapfrog over Council space entirely? Establish colonies in uncharted territory? Exactly, Mina said. The Council thinks we're confined to Sol. Let them think that. Meanwhile, we send colony ships through unexplored space to these distant regions. By the time they realize what we're doing, we'll already have a foothold. But our current FTL drives can't reach those regions, someone objected. They're too far. It would take years, maybe decades. The young woman stood up. She looked barely out of her teens, with nervous eyes and messy hair. I can solve that problem, she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Doyon recognized her. Su-Yoon Beek, a physicist who had published groundbreaking papers on faster-than-light theory while still in university. She was only 24 years old. Speak up, Mina encouraged her. Su-Yoon took a deep breath. The Council's FTL drives use hyperspace lanes, natural channels in space-time that allow faster travel, but those lanes only go to certain places. They're like roads. Useful, but limiting. She activated her own display. Complex equations filled the air. I've been working on something different. Artificial wormholes. Temporary tunnels we create ourselves. They can go anywhere. Through any point in space? Is this theoretical? General Heian asked. Not anymore, Su-Yoon said. I built a small prototype last month. It works. We can create a wormhole, send a ship through, and the wormhole collapses behind it. Completely undetectable. The Council won't even know we're using it. The assembly erupted in excited conversation. This changed everything. If humanity could travel anywhere without using Council hyperspace lanes, they could truly go anywhere. Ginwoo raised his hand for silence. This is a dangerous path, he warned. If we do this, there is no going back. The Council will see it as a direct violation of their decree. They may respond with force. Let them, Doyon said. By the time they figure out what we're doing, we'll be strong enough to defend ourselves. And how long will that take? Jinwoo asked. 10 years? 20? 100? Does it matter? Mina asked. The Council wants us to wait 5,000 years. I'd rather take our chances now. The vote was close. Many representatives feared the consequences. but more feared the alternative. Accepting the Council's judgment meant accepting that humanity would be trapped forever. In the end, the motion passed. Earth would defy the Galactic Council. The Frontier Initiative was born that day. It was the most ambitious project in human history. Every nation contributed resources. Shipyards worked around the clock building colony vessels. Scientists like Suyun refined the wormhole technology. Soldiers trained for combat in zero-gravity and alien environments. Doyon was placed in command of the first expeditionary fleet, 12 ships, carrying 10,000 colonists and everything they would need to start a new civilization. Dr. Hannah Lee volunteered to join them as chief science advisor. Despite her initial despair, she had found new hope in humanity's defiant choice. On the day of departure, millions gathered to watch. The 12 ships hung in orbit above Earth, gleaming in the sunlight. Doyon stood on the bridge of the flagship, renamed the Defiance. He looked down at the blue marble of Earth, at the home humanity had known for all of its existence. "Are we really doing this?" Hannah asked beside him. "Yes," Doyon said. "We're really doing this." Suyun's voice came through the communications system from the engineering deck. "Wormhole generator is online. Coordinates locked. Target system is in the Perseus Arm, 18,000 light-years from Earth, completely outside Council space." "Will we ever see Earth again?" one of the junior officers asked. Yes, Doyon promised. "When we return, we'll return as equals. Not as beggars asking for permission, but as builders of our own destiny." He gave the order, "All ships, prepare for wormhole transit." Space in front of the fleet began to ripple and distort. A sphere of absolute darkness appeared, growing larger until it was big enough to swallow the ships. This was it, the point of no return. "Take us through," Doyon commanded. The Defiance moved forward into the wormhole. For a moment, everything went dark. Doyon felt like he was falling through an infinite void. Then suddenly, they were somewhere else. The view screen showed unfamiliar stars, strange constellations, a red sun in the distance. "Transit successful," Suyun reported. "All ships accounted for. We're exactly where we should be." Cheers erupted across the bridge. They had done it. They had traveled farther than any human had ever gone. Using technology the Council didn't even know existed. Hannah looked at the scanners. "There's a habitable planet in this system. Class M, oceans, continents, breathable atmosphere. It's perfect," Doyon smiled. "Then let's go claim it. For humanity. For our future. For everyone who said we couldn't." The Defiance and its sister ships moved toward the planet. Behind them, the wormhole collapsed, leaving no trace they had ever been there. Back on Earth, people waited anxiously for news. They wouldn't know for weeks if the mission had succeeded. But here, 18,000 light-years from home, humanity was taking its first steps into a larger universe, not as subjects of the Galactic Council, but as pioneers building something new, something that would one day make the Council regret they ever said no. 50 years had passed since the Defiance first arrived in the Perseus Arm. The planet they found that day was named New Terra, and it had become the jewel of humanity's new civilization. Governor Unisong stood on the balcony of the Capitol building, looking out over a city that stretched to the horizon. Towers of glass and steel reached toward the orange sky. Flying vehicles moved between buildings. Parks and gardens filled with plants from both Earth and this alien world dotted the landscape. Una was born on a colony ship. She had never seen Earth except in pictures and videos. For her, New Terra was home. This world, with its longer days and lighter gravity, was normal. Earth was the alien place, the distant cradle that humanity had left behind. "Governor, the delegation from the Minerai has arrived," her assistant said. Una turned away from the view. "Show them in." 3 small aliens entered her office. They stood only 4 feet tall, covered in soft fur that ranged from golden brown to silver gray. Their faces were fox-like, with large ears and bright eyes. They moved nervously, looking around the room as if expecting danger. The leader bowed deeply. "Governor Song, I am Pip of the Minari people. We come seeking refuge. Tell me what happened, Una said gently, gesturing for them to sit. Pip's ears drooped. Our world is part of the Galactic Council territories. Officially, we are a protected species under Valkyr administration. In reality, we are slaves. The Valkyr take our resources. They take our people to work in their factories. When we complained to the Council, they ignored us. We have nowhere else to turn. Una had heard similar stories before. Over the past 50 years, as humanity built its independent colonies, word had spread through the galaxy. Whispers of a species that had defied the Council and survived. Rumors of human worlds where beings could live free from Council oversight. Dozens of refugee groups had found their way to human space, seeking the freedom they couldn't find in Council territory. You understand what it means to come here? Una asked. The Council forbids any species from associating with us. If the Valkyr discover you're here, there will be consequences. We accept that risk, Pip said. Death, as free beings, is better than life as slaves. Una made her decision. Then welcome to New Terra. We'll find you a place to settle. Our medical teams will help your injured. You'll have full rights and freedoms, just like any human citizen. Tears formed in Pip's large eyes. Thank you, Governor. You don't know what this means to us? But even as Una spoke those words of welcome, alarms began blaring throughout the building. Her assistant ran back into the room. Governor, we have a problem. 3 Valkyr warships just emerged from hyperspace at the system's edge. They're demanding we return the Minari refugees. Una felt her stomach clench. She had feared this would happen eventually. The Council had tolerated humanity's expansion because they thought humans would stay isolated. But harboring refugees, protecting them from Council member species, that was different. That was a direct challenge. Get me Admiral Taijin, she said. Moments later, the Admiral's face appeared on her screen. Taijin Ru was in his 60s now, a veteran of humanity's expansion. He had been a young officer on the Defiance all those years ago. Now he commanded the entire human defense fleet. I'm already aware of the situation, Taijin said. The Defiance and 5 other ships are moving to intercept. We should reach the Valkyr position in 2 hours. Can we win? Una asked. Taijin smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Governor, the Valkyr haven't fought a real war in 10,000 years. They're used to intimidating primitive species. We're not primitive. The Defiance and her escort ships move through space at speeds that would have amazed the engineers who built the first colony ships. Human technology had advanced rapidly, driven by necessity. Without access to Council technology, humans had to innovate. They had developed better engines, stronger weapons, more efficient power systems. Everything about human ships was designed for performance and adaptability. Admiral Taijin stood on the bridge of the Defiance, the same ship that had carried the first colonists to New Terra 50 years ago. She had been rebuilt and upgraded many times, but she was still the flagship of humanity's fleet. The Valkyr warships appeared on the view screen. They were massive things, probably designed more for intimidation than actual combat. All sharp angles and aggressive styling, covered in weapons that hadn't been fired in anger for millennia. This is Commander Zix of the Valkyr Enforcement Fleet, a buzzing voice said over the communication channel. You are harboring stolen property of the Valkyr Consortium. Return the Minari refugees immediately, or face the consequences. Taijin gestured for the communication officer to open a channel. This is Admiral Taejian Ru of the Human's Defense Fleet. The beings you call property are free individuals under the protection of New Terra. Your claim has no validity here. Turn around and leave our space. There was a long silence. Then Zix spoke again, sounding shocked. You dare refuse the Galactic Council? You are a Category 3 species. You have no authority to interfere with Council business. We recognize no authority but our own, Taijin said calmly. You have 10 minutes to leave this system. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war. You cannot threaten us. Zix shrieked. We will destroy your primitive ships and take what belongs to the Valkyr by force. The Valkyr ships opened fire. Massive energy beams lanced through space toward the human vessels. It was an impressive display, but Taijin had expected it. The human ships scattered, moving with an agility the large Velker warships couldn't match. "Return fire," Taijin ordered. "Target their weapon systems. I want them disabled, not destroyed." Human railguns spat projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Missiles with smart guidance systems swarmed toward the Velker ships. The Velker shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were less effective against solid projectiles moving at incredible velocities. Within minutes, all 3 Velker ships were crippled. Their weapons offline, their engines damaged, they drifted helplessly in space. "This is impossible," Zix's voice said over the comm, no longer arrogant but confused and afraid. "Our intelligence said humans were primitives. Your technology is superior to ours." 50 years is a long time, Taijin said. "The Council's intelligence is 50 years out of date. Now leave, before I change my mind about letting you live." The Velkyr ships limped away, activating emergency hyperspace jumps to escape the system. Taijin watched them go, knowing that this moment would change everything. The Council would learn that humanity was no longer weak, that they couldn't push humans around anymore. Back on New Terra, Yuna addressed the gathered Minari refugees. More had arrived during the standoff, dozens of ships fleeing Velker space while the enforcement fleet was distracted. "You're safe here," she told them. "The Velkyr came, and we sent them away. We will protect you, just as we protect all free beings in our space." Pip stepped forward. "Governor Song, how can we repay you?" "Live free," Yuna said simply. "Build homes. Raise families. Contribute to our society. That's all we ask." News of the confrontation spread across the galaxy faster than light. Species throughout Council space heard the story of how humans had defeated a Velker enforcement fleet, how they had protected refugees despite Council law, how they had proven that the Council's power wasn't absolute. Dr. Hannah Lee, now over 80 years old but still sharp-minded, sat in her laboratory on New Terra and smiled as she read the reports. She remembered the young idealist who had gone to the Nexus station 50 years ago, hoping to join the galactic community. That naive girl had thought the Council was wise and benevolent. Now she knew better. The Council was just another government, flawed and corrupt like any other. And like all governments that ruled through fear rather than consent, it was vulnerable to those brave enough to resist. In her quarters that night, Yuna looked up at the stars through her window. Somewhere out there, 18,000 light-years away, was Earth, the homeworld she had never seen. She wondered what the people there thought of all this. Did they approve of what the colonies were doing? Did they fear the consequences? Then she thought of Pip and the other Minari refugees. Thought of the other species that had found freedom in human space. Thought of all the beings still suffering under Council rule, waiting for someone to show them that resistance was possible. The Council had rejected humanity, thinking they were doing the galaxy a favor. They had believed humans were too primitive, too violent. It's too dangerous to be allowed among the stars. They were right about the dangerous part, Yuna thought, just not in the way they expected. Humanity was dangerous to tyrants, dangerous to systems built on oppression, dangerous to anyone who thought they had the right to tell others how to live, and that danger was only just beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in recent memory. All 47 members were present, and the chamber buzzed with angry voices. Councillor Varric of the Thrain stood at his seat, his red scales gleaming under the chamber lights. Unlike many of his fellow councillors, Varric was not panicking. He was thinking, "Order," the chief councillor demanded. "We must address this crisis systematically." Councillor Vex of the Velkyr rose, his insect body trembling with rage. "The humans attacked our ships. They destroyed Council property. They harbor criminals and refugees. This cannot stand." "Your ships attacked first," another councillor pointed out. "The humans merely defended themselves. They had no right to defend themselves." Vex shrieked. "They are a Category 3 species. They have no rights beyond their home system." Varric spoke, his voice calm and measured. "With respect, Councillor Vex, I believe we have a more serious problem than hurt pride. Our intelligence reports indicate that humanity now controls 47 colonies across the Perseus Arm. Their technology has advanced to match or exceed our own in several key areas. Their ships are faster, their weapons more effective, and their tactics more creative. Impossible, an Orvithy representative said. We would have sensed such growth. We monitor all developing species. Clearly, we do not monitor them as well as we thought, Varric replied. The humans have been expanding for 50 years without our knowledge. They use a form of faster-than-light travel we cannot detect. They build in regions we consider worthless. And now, they are offering protection to species dissatisfied with council rule. This caused an uproar. Several counselors began shouting at once. The chief counselor called for order again, but it took several minutes for the chamber to quiet down. How many species have defected to human space? The chief counselor asked. Varric consulted a datapad. Confirmed reports indicate at least 12 species, including the Minari, the Kelter, and the Prin. Unconfirmed rumors suggest the number might be twice that. More significantly, several council member species have opened secret diplomatic channels with human worlds. That's treason, Vex buzzed. That's politics, Varric corrected. Some species are unhappy with their position in the council. The humans offer them an alternative. Meanwhile, in human space, Captain Yunjinam was conducting operations that would make the council's problems much worse. She commanded the stealth reconnaissance fleet. Small ships equipped with the most advanced sensor jamming technology humanity had developed. Her mission was intelligence gathering. She was very good at her job. Youngji floated in zero gravity aboard her ship. The Shadow, studying data her team had collected from a council communications hub. What she found disturbed her greatly. She called her second-in-command, Lieutenant Yuri Park. Look at these trade records, Yoonji said, highlighting sections of the data. The Velkyr import raw materials from 17 different species at fixed prices. But when I cross-reference with market data, those prices are far below fair value. The Velkyr are essentially stealing resources and claiming it's legal trade, Yuri frowned. That's not news. We knew the council was corrupt. It's worse than we thought, Yoonji continued. She pulled up more files. Look at this. The Orvithy have been using their psychic abilities to influence council votes for at least 3 centuries. Here's documentation of them manipulating smaller species representatives. And look at this. These are military deployment records. The council has been using their peacekeeping forces to crush independence movements on 14 worlds in just the past decade. They're not peacekeepers, Yuri said quietly. They're enforcers, maintaining an empire. Exactly, Yunji agreed. And I think the galaxy needs to know the truth. She transmitted the data to New Terra, where Ambassador Kyung-an received it with great interest. Kyung was humanity's chief diplomat to non-council species. And she had been building networks of contacts across the galaxy. She was bold, some said reckless. But she got results. Kyung met with representatives from 9 different species in a secret location. A human space station in neutral territory. She presented the evidence Yunji had gathered, showing them the full extent of council, corruption, and manipulation. A delegate from the Orlan. A bird-like species studied the data with growing horror. We always suspected something was wrong, but we had no proof. The council claimed they were protecting us. Protecting you from what? Kyung asked. From freedom? From fair trade? From living your lives as you choose? What are you proposing? Asked a delegate from the Sarati aquatic beings who lived in specialized environment suits. Coalition, Kyung said. An alliance of free species. No forced membership. No exploitation. Just mutual defense and fair trade. The humans will provide military protection and technology. You provide resources, labor, and population. Together, we build something better than the council. The council will never allow it, the Orlan delegate said nervously. The council is already losing control, Kyung replied. They just don't know it yet. More species defect every month. Their authority is based on fear and the illusion of absolute power. We're going to shatter that illusion. The Coalition for Free Systems was officially founded 3 months later. It started with only 8 species, but it grew quickly. Each new member brought resources and capabilities. The Minari were skilled engineers. The Kelter had extensive mining operations. The Prin were expert farmers who could grow food on almost any world. But the Council responded with force. When a supply convoy carrying food to Minari settlements was intercepted by Council ships, it seemed like the coalition might collapse before it truly began. The Council task force destroyed 2 cargo ships and captured 3 more. Claiming they were violating Council space, Admiral Taijun received the news within hours. He was old now, in his 70s, but his eyes still burned with the same fire he'd had as a young officer on the Defiance. He called an emergency meeting of the Coalition Military Command. "They want to test us," Taijun said. "They think if they hurt us enough, we'll back down like everyone else always has." "They're wrong. What do you propose?" asked a Minari admiral. "We hit them back," Taijun said. "Not just defend, attack. We destroy the ships that attacked our convoy. We broadcast evidence of their crimes across the galaxy. We show everyone that the Council can bleed." The human fleet, reinforced by ships from coalition allies, struck fast and hard. They didn't just defend the convoy route. They attacked Council military outposts in 3 different systems simultaneously. The attacks were precise, targeting only military installations and broadcasting warnings to evacuate civilians first. The Council forces, expecting weak resistance, were shocked by the ferocity and coordination of the coalition attack. Human tactics were unlike anything they had faced before. The coalition forces didn't fight in traditional formation. They used hit-and-run tactics, psychological warfare, and turned every engagement into a public relations victory by broadcasting everything live across the galaxy. Counselor. Varric watched the reports from the battlefield and felt a cold realization settle over him. "We're losing," he said to his aides. "Not just the battles. We're losing the propaganda war. Every time we fight the humans, they make us look like tyrants. Every time we claim authority, they show evidence of our corruption. What should we do?" an aide asked. "I don't know," Varric admitted. "But I know this. The Council has ruled for 50,000 years because nobody challenged us. Now someone has, and they're winning. Everything is going to change." Back on New Terra, Governor Yuna addressed a crowd of millions. Humans and aliens stood together watching as she spoke. 70 years ago, the Galactic Council rejected humanity. They said we were too primitive, too violent, too dangerous. They wanted us to stay in our place, to accept their judgment, to wait thousands of years for permission to be free. She paused, letting her words sink in. "Instead, we built this. We built colonies. We built alliances. We built a future where freedom isn't a privilege granted by the powerful, but a right claimed by the brave." The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and Minari and Kelter and Prin and 8 other species, all united in their defiance of the old order. "The Council says we're criminals for protecting refugees. They say we're rebels for trading freely. They say we're dangerous for refusing to obey them," Yuna smiled. "They're absolutely right. We are dangerous. We're dangerous to anyone who thinks they own the galaxy. We're dangerous to anyone who believes might makes right. We're dangerous to tyrants everywhere." The cheers grew louder. And across the galaxy, on countless worlds, both in Council space and beyond, beings heard her words and felt something they hadn't felt in generations. Hope. The hope that the Council's power wasn't absolute. That change was possible. That freedom could be won. 15 years had passed since the Coalition for Free Systems was founded. The galaxy was divided now, split between the old Council territories and the growing Coalition. But the division was not clean. Every month, more species left the Council. Every week, new colonies joined the Coalition. The old order was crumbling. Everyone knew it. Premier Junli stood in the command center on New Terra, watching reports flow in from across the galaxy. He was young for a planetary leader, only 42, but he had grown up in this era of change. He was the grandson of Ambassador Ginwu Park, the man who had led humanity's first delegation to the Council all those years ago. Jinwu had died 10 years earlier, But before his death, he had admitted something to June. "I was wrong," the old ambassador had said. "I thought joining the council was the right path. I thought we should accept their judgment and wait. Thank the stars nobody listened to me. Everything we've built, all the freedom we've won, it happened because we refused to obey." Now June carried that legacy forward. As Premier of the United Human Worlds and Chairman of the Coalition Council, he had a responsibility to billions of beings across dozens of species. "Premier, we have a problem," his intelligence chief said. "The Valkyr Consortium is mobilizing a massive fleet. Over 300 warships. They're calling it Operation Final Authority." June felt his blood run cold. 300 ships. That was more than the Coalition's entire military. Where are they going? "Our analysts believe they're targeting New Terra directly. They want to destroy the Coalition's capital and leadership in one strike. Break our spirit." June called an emergency meeting of the Coalition Military Command. Fleet Marshal Seojin Ko appeared on the screen, an old veteran who had fought in dozens of battles against Council forces. Beside her were admirals from 4 different species, all of them looking grim. "Can we stop them?" June asked directly. Seojin studied the tactical displays. "In a straight fight? No, they outnumber us 3-1. But we don't fight straight fights." She smiled slightly. "The Valkyr are making a mistake. They're bringing all their forces to one place. They think overwhelming force will guarantee victory. But it just means all their eggs are in one basket." "What are you proposing?" asked the Minari Admiral Kip. He was Pip's grandson, carrying on his grandfather's legacy of freedom fighting. "We don't defend New Terra," Seojin said. "We attack the Nexus Station." The room erupted in shocked voices. Attack the Nexus Station? The heart of Council power. The symbolic center of galactic government for 50,000 years? "That's suicide," someone objected. "No," Seojin said calmly. "It's strategy. While the Valkyr fleet is here attacking New Terra, we take everything we have and hit the Nexus Station. We capture it. We broadcast live from the Council chambers. We show the galaxy that the Council is not invincible." "And what happens to New Terra while we're gone?" June asked. "New Terra evacuates," Seojin replied. "We move the population to the outer colonies. Yes, the Valkyr will bombard an empty world. But they'll lose their capital and their legitimacy. It's a trade worth making." The plan was insane, dangerous, possibly suicidal. But June remembered his grandfather's words. Everything humanity had achieved came from refusing to do what was safe and expected. "Do it," he ordered. The evacuation of New Terra took 2 weeks. Millions of humans and aliens boarded transport ships, leaving behind the world that had been the Coalition's heart. It was painful, watching the great city empty. But everyone understood why it was necessary. The Valkyr fleet arrived to find New Terra defended by only a small force of automated weapons platforms. They destroyed the platforms easily and began bombardment of the planet's surface. Buildings collapsed. Infrastructure crumbled. The orange sky filled with smoke and fire. Commander Zix, who had been humiliated by humanity 70 years earlier, now commanded the Valkyr fleet. He watched the destruction with satisfaction. "The humans are broken," he said. "We have destroyed their capital. Their rebellion is over." But then reports started coming in from across the galaxy. The Coalition fleet had appeared at the Nexus Station. They weren't just attacking. They were winning. Fleet Marshal Seojin had divided her forces into 3 groups. One attacked the station's defensive fleet. One targeted the station's weapons and shields. The third, led by Admiral Taijin on the Ancient Defiance, landed boarding parties directly on the station. The fighting was fierce but brief. Council forces had spent millennia without real combat. They were unused to the desperate, creative tactics human soldiers employed. Within 6 hours, human and Coalition forces controlled the Nexus Station. Jun Li, who had traveled with the fleet, walked through the same corridors his grandfather had walked nearly a century before. He entered the Council chambers where humanity had been rejected and found it full of Coalition. Soldiers securing the area. He stood on the central platform. exactly where Ambassador Jinwoo had stood all those years ago. But this time, the situation was reversed. Council members were prisoners in their own chamber, surrounded by the species they had once ruled. "Broadcast to the entire galaxy," June ordered. "All channels, all frequencies. Everyone needs to see this." When the cameras were ready, he spoke. His words were transmitted to billions of beings across thousands of worlds. "I am Premier Jun Lee of the United Human Worlds. 70 years ago, my grandfather stood in this chamber and asked the Galactic Council for a chance to join the galactic community. He was refused. Humanity was judged unworthy. We were told to stay in our place, to accept the Council's wisdom, to wait 5,000 years for another chance." He paused, looking directly at the cameras. "We didn't wait. Instead, we built our own future. We established colonies. We welcomed refugees. We formed the Coalition for Free Systems. And today we stand in this chamber not as supplicants, but as liberators." Counselor Varick, one of the few council members who had warned about humanity's rise, spoke up. "What do you want? Revenge? To become the new council? To rule as we ruled?" "No," June said firmly. "We want something much more dangerous to tyrants. We want freedom. Not just for humans. Not just for coalition species. For everyone." He gestured around the chamber. "This building, this council, it has existed for 50,000 years. For 50,000 years, it has determined which species can expand, which can trade, which can live freely. That era ends today, not through our conquest, but through its own obsolescence." "You're disbanding the council?" an Orvathi representative asked, shocked. "I'm offering you a choice," June replied. "The coalition is not another empire. It's not another government claiming authority over everyone. It's an alliance of free peoples who choose to work together. Any species can join. Any species can leave. No species is forced to do anything. The old council claimed to bring order through control. We offer cooperation through freedom." He turned to address the cameras again. "To every species watching this, council member or not, I say this: you are free. Free to join the coalition. Free to form your own governments. Free to stay independent. Free to make whatever choices you believe are right. No one, not the council, not humanity, not anyone, has the right to tell you how to live." The broadcast spread across the galaxy within hours. On council worlds, populations watched in amazement as the symbol of absolute authority crumbled. On coalition worlds, people celebrated. On independent worlds, leaders began planning for a future where they didn't need permission to exist. The Valkyr fleet at New Terra received the news and fell apart. Some ships stayed to continue the bombardment of an empty world. Others retreated to Valkyr space. Many simply defected. Their crews no longer willing to fight for a council that no longer existed. Over the following decade, the galaxy transformed. The Galactic Council didn't dissolve overnight, but it slowly became irrelevant. Species that wanted to join the coalition did so. Others formed their own confederations. Some remained independent, preferring to handle their own affairs. The Valkyr consortium fragmented into competing trade companies that had to earn business through fair dealing rather than monopoly power. The Orvathi withdrew to their home systems, their manipulation exposed, and their influence shattered. The Thrain found new purpose as peacekeepers in the coalition. Their warrior culture redirected from conquest to protection. Dr. Hannah Lee, now over 130 years old and near the end of her life, sat in a garden on New Terra. The city had been rebuilt, more beautiful than before. She watched as human children played with Minari children, as Kelter merchants traded with Prin farmers, as beings from a dozen species lived together in peace. A young historian named Dae-Yoon Oh came to interview her. "Dr. Lee, you were there at the beginning. You saw humanity rejected by the council. Did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Hannah smiled. "No," she admitted. "When we were rejected, I cried. I thought it was the end of our dreams. But it was actually the beginning. The council's rejection freed us to imagine something better than joining their system." It forced us to build our own path. Do you think the council made the right decision? Dayon asked. Hannah laughed. The council made the decision that was right for them. They wanted to preserve their power. They wanted to keep the galaxy the way it was. But the universe doesn't work that way.